if someone is deemed to be interfering with their operation, I think they do have the right to stop them. But as you say, and as I've been seeing, there have been a lot of cases where it doesn't seem like that's the case, and it seems like certain constitutional rights, such as your First Amendment to protest or to film people peacefully, might not be respected in some of these situations.
In the United States, tens of thousands of protesters have been marching through Minneapolis, the city in Minnesota, after the killing of Renee Good by an immigration federal officer. That shooting has been witnessed and seen over and over again now by countless millions of people, thanks to video footage shown on social media around the world. That was on Wednesday. Now, the Trump administration says the ICE agent was acting in self-defense. The Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, saying exactly the same thing. Others disputing that as just flat out wrong. And the administration is saying hundreds more federal agents are being sent to the city to support those immigration officers there, so-called ICE officers. Now, we can get a picture of what's going on there on the ground now from Lewis Krauss. He's the crime reporter for the Star Tribune in Minneapolis. Lewis, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's great to have you back again. I mean, since that, the horrible scenes of that shooting, so much has happened, so much argument has boiled up. What is happening on the ground there now, Lewis?
So we've had a weekend full of intense protests, and those protests come in a variety of forms. One of the largest was on Friday night when there was a noise demonstration where protesters have determined where ICE officers are staying at, and possibly the chief, Greg Bavino. And there was a lot of marching and loud noise making, maybe a couple of windows broken, but it seems like for the most part, people are trying to be peaceful and they're protesting and making noise to disturb agents. And we've also seen the effects of the increase in ICE agents here in the Twin Cities. We started with 2,000 just prior to Renee Good being shot that came in. And that's even with that is more than both Minneapolis and St. Paul's police forces combined. So it's a very visually present thing that's coming up throughout the city. And we've seen a lot of viral videos as well. Because there's so many more agents, now there are a lot of interactions between protesters and the agents that are getting a lot of traction online, and a lot of concerns of unconstitutional and unlawful tactics being used by agents. We've seen people who are filming them have their phones pulled out of their hands. We've seen accidents where it's unclear if an agent caused it or an observer was following too closely. And so it's a very tense situation now. It's calmed down this Monday morning, it seems like, after a weekend full of protests and standoffs at the federal building south of Minneapolis. Yeah. And so now a lot of people are wondering what will be next in terms of major ICE operations.
And by way of context, it's right, isn't it, that the ICE federal agents are immigration enforcement officers. They don't have a legal right to demand that people get out of their cars, and some of the things they're accused of doing. They don't have the right to arrest people on some of the grounds that people are being held and detained. Isn't that true?
Sure. There's certain boundaries. I think is deemed to be interfering with their operation. I think they do have the right to stop them. But as you say, and as I've been seeing, there have been a lot of cases where it doesn't seem like that's the case, and it seems like certain constitutional rights, such as your First Amendment to protest or to film people peacefully, might not be respected in some of these situations. And that's one of the frustrations that's growing, and especially when a lot of the local police show up and these agents are already gone, so there isn't really a full picture given or investigation that's possible because the agents disappear by the time we could get any more description, and DHS typically is slow or doesn't tell us what has happened in each of these cases.
We need to keep in mind, don't we, that Minneapolis is what's called a sanctuary city. That is that the authorities and the public bodies of the city and I think the state are not required to help ICE and the federal government with their operations on the ground when it comes to what ICE is doing. Now, What does that mean on the ground? For example, Lewis, between ICE agents and the city police and local police?
Yeah. So the city's police department explains that they are not to assist. Kind of a loaded word nowadays in terms of what it means to assist or not. And they are allowed, though, if there is deemed to be risk to public safety and it becomes too dangerous, that the local police department will uh, form a barrier and act as crowd control. And so that's where you have this argument and discussion over whether that's the case, whether these local police officers are in fact being crowd control and protecting the peace, or are they assisting the agents with what they're doing? And the city would argue that they never are assisting. Some local residents would argue that it is facilitating it at times, or that they see the agents, interacting in a friendly manner with the local police, whereas the local officers or deputies don't seem to be as interactive with the locals of trying to explain what's happening. And so basically, as a sanctuary city, it doesn't really seem to have much control in terms of, can local police stop a federal operation, but they have to it seems that they have to always have that on their mind and not do anything that would appear to be assisting with what their arrest is and what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, as a reporter on the ground in Minneapolis, Lewis, just your thoughts on the extraordinary nature of what's going on in your city. I mean, Minneapolis, it's become an illustration of the deep divisions and tensions, hasn't it, between the Trump administration in Washington and the states and the cities, in many cases controlled by the opposition party, the Democrats. It's the fabric of the republic. It's not overstating. It's the fabric of the republic under strain.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting when you think of the fact that the federal government is calling this the largest immigration operation ever, whereas we're living in a state that doesn't have as large of an immigrant population as many other states in the United States. And it makes you wonder why the state was picked. At first, it seemed that the fraud that was happening is being carried out by nonprofits, and the concerns of whether it's daycares or other groups that are primarily run by Somali immigrants, that was the reason why they're sending this large ICE presence. But then you've got the mayor saying that from his standpoint, he's wondering if the agents arrived and found out that most of these Somali people are actually citizens. And now you've got a lot more targeting of Latino people. But it's an interesting situation where now you have primarily videos of protesters and the agents having fights and arrests, not actually people being sought as part of this operation.
Yeah.
And so that's really what's crystallized this political nature of this operation. Yeah. And it's been really stunning to see this in a series of nationwide capturing events going back to George Floyd's killing. So it's really been piling up for years now.
All right, Lewis Krauss at the Star Tribune in Minneapolis. Thank you so much for your perspective. That's really helpful in just getting us into the heart of this story.